This fast 9 comp is the strongest comp at the moment, and it's what every top player is looking for. If you master this comp, you will master the ladder. That's at least what Sulakazang did. He spammed this comp and he hit rank 1. The cap for this board is huge with 5 cost units, and the best part of it, it's also really fun. This should be the comp that you want to play every single game if the game gives you the chance. The first thing that we want to do is to go level 9 every game, and yes, we can do it consistently with the right strategy. But before we go into how we do that, let's look at what we need. By default, we are looking for 3 multi-strikers: Kalista, Camille and Akali. Kalista will be our main carry, and together with Rakan, we are getting this item. Meanwhile, Kalista will do all the damage. Rakan will mainly be a tank. He does do a bit of damage, but mainly he do put a shield on himself and allied close to him. The second multicaster is Akali, but she is more or less just a unit that we have to get all the traits. She's making sure that we are getting multicaster, pyro and warrior. Multicaster gives the units a chance to attack more, pyro brings attack speed to the whole team, and warrior makes the units gain omnivamp and damage. The other part of warrior is Fiora, and most of the games she will be our secondary carry, and she is also our bruiser unit. When she casts, she gains a lot of durability and sweep through as many units as she can. The third multicaster is Camille, and she does damage and also CC. She can also be a really strong carry in the very late game. Camille does also have Chrono, and she have that with Cillian, and what Chrono provides to this comp is just that they are healing up the whole team after a certain amount of time. Cillian itself just brings CC, but he does also provide us with more traits in Persevere, and Persevere just gives us a bit of healing or mana. Then we have the other part of Pyro, and that is Nasus. Nasus will be our main tank together with Rakan, and when he casts, he steals some health, and the rest of the time he casts, he will just be healing himself up and doing some damage. He does also come with Shapeshifter, and that gives the units more health. The other part of Shapeshifter is Briar, and she just mainly brings CC. As Camille, she can also be a very strong carry in the very late game. The last unit is Morgana, and she does bring us one more trait in Persevere. She does also bring us Witchcraft together with Fiora, and that basically just take a bit of health away from the units that we are attacking. And then she just also have the solo trait Bat Queen. That gives her a chance to copy a unit to our bench if she kills them with her bats. Her spell is sending out these bats attacking close by enemy, and she does also provide herself with a shield. This comp is the most consistent one, but there will be situations where you do a roll down and not hitting these exact unit. And that does also mean that you have to have other units that you can use instead of all of these. Kalista is just something you can't change, but you could change out Fiora and play Gwen instead, and you could also change out some of the other tank units and play some of these. If you're at some point getting the other units and getting them to 2-star, you can put them in, and sometimes you have to be fine having these units to 2-star, playing them instead of the other frontline units, and then go on and securing a top 4. In practice, it could be taking out the Shapeshifter units and putting in some Bastions, and you're also more likely to hit something like some Kench, so you could put him in instead of Camille and play by this board at level 8 before you're hitting Morgana, but more on that later. When it comes to items, Nasus and Rakan will hold the tank items, Fiora will hold the bruiser items, meanwhile Kalista will go for the attack speed items. To get to level 9, we have to pick up experience augments or economy augments, and in the best case, we're getting one at the very first augment. It could really be any econ augment, but a few examples that are doing well is Raining Gold, E-Punch, At What Cost, Future Favorites, all the Shimmers, but all other augments that are providing us with more gold or experience is good for this comp. We do also have quite a lot of items, and some items have to be very specific, so items augments is also good, and there is also some very specific augments like Unleash the Beast, and you have my bow that works quite well for this comp. And there is of course also better portals than others, and purely from stats, these are the best at the moment. Champion Delivery, Item Payout, and Champion Duplicator. But you should of course just look for what makes most sense to pick to get to level 9 fastest as possible. Items should be slammed as often as possible. Doing so, we want to save as much health as possible in the early game, so we have the chance to get to the very late game. Items that we can slam is more or less pure tank items, because Nasus and Rakan can use almost all of them. Claw, Stoneblade, Heart, or Bramble Vest is all useful. And we can also go for early Sunfire Cape if needed. But keep in mind that Fiora does need a few of the same components for making her best items. And we will prioritize Fiora's items over tank items, so do we have the chance to slam these items over the tank items, we will do that. Fiora's best items will be Steric, Bloodthirster and Titans, but we could also go for something like Edge of Night or Hand of Justice. But before we're just slamming a Titan, remember Kalista is the most important unit to itemize correctly. And here we want a Rage Blade and Last Whisper. The last item will be the one that we are getting from the trade, Queen's Crown. Queen's Crown and Rage Blade is a must for Kalista. But the main thing is, you do not want to sit on item components, you rather slam them, save some health and get to the full comp. We are building items for the current strongest unit we play, and we cannot always just go for the best in slot items for the late game. We have to focus on what we are playing right now. In the end of the video, I'll show you a quick gameplay on a few tips and tricks what you can do to get to the very late game. So in the early game, we want to play the strongest comp we can. First prioritize is to gain as much gold as we can and save as much health as possible. And that means if we can hit an early 10 or 20 gold mark to start our economy snowballing, that is the best case. Throughout the game, we want to grab as many pairs as possible, as long as you can do it without stopping your gold to snowball. So are you above 50 gold and you do not have the chance to level up, grab a few units. You might end up 2-starring them and maybe you can use them for later. And obviously try to focus on units that you do already have a trade from. So are you already playing a shapeshifter in your team? You might want to hold another unit from the same trade. Other than picking up units that gives us more trade, make sure that you are also building items around your current strongest carry. Other than picking up units that gives us more trade, make sure that you're building up your team around your current carry. After grabbing ourselves an augment that gives us some sort of gold, we do not try to go for a lose streak. We could do it, but in most situations, we just want to provide as much health as possible and try to hit the early 10 and 20 gold fast. If we get a 5 lose streak, it is fine, but we do not try to force it, since it's not worth to lose 8 to 10 health every single round just to get the streak. But can we hit a 5 lose streak and sit above 70 health? It is fine, but else just try to hit 40 gold before we hit stage 3. But do you on the other hand see yourself having a win streak, you can start using a bit of gold to level up. And does it work? We can even be fine going level 6 when we hit the 4th win streak in stage 2. And you could also do that at stage 3-1 to make sure that your win streak is keep going. You keep winning, you can also go level 7 at stage 3-5 if you are on fire. What we play in the early game doesn't really matter that much. You just have to think that you want to gain as much gold as possible without losing too much health. That means you have to play around the strongest units that you get, not what you need for later, but of course there is some combinations that are really strong right now and is perfect if you want to go into this comp in the late game. So do you have no idea what you should look for? Don't worry, I got you. Start out the game by looking for 3 multicasters. These are the 4 cheapest ones. And if possible, just go for these 3 guys. Ashe is a perfect holder for Kalista in the late game. And Kassadin is a perfect holder for Fiora. Now you already have 2 units that can hold the items very well until you're doing your roll down. Jax is also a unit that you can keep almost the whole game, since he does have exactly the same trait as Camille. Another great unit you can put into this comp will be something like Cillian. Now you get CC and you do also have the Chrono active, and we do also need him in the very late game. From here you just want to put in as many multicasters as possible. And if you can get to 5 multicasters, you do already have a very strong comp. This is what your comp could look like at level 6, but you could also go for something like 2 shapeshifters with Nico, Sylvana or Swain. Prioritize Nico and then put in whatever you have of these units that are the strongest. Then you're not playing Hecarim, and this could be a level 6 board, but we'll get back to that in a minute. If we do not hit an economy augment as the first one, we want to have one as the second one. And if we even have the option to pick 2 of them, we can do that. But we could also just pick some sort of item or combat augment, since they can work too. But you probably shouldn't go for 3 economy augments, so pick at least 1 item or combat augment, and even think twice when you're about to pick your second economy augment. If we do not get any econ augments, you might want to play a different comp. But do you have a fairly strong comp with good amount of health and gold, you can still play this comp and just go forward and hit level 9 and play the full board. No matter what augment we get, we want to play the game with a high amount of gold all the game. And being level 7 at stage 3-5 with close to 50 gold or above, or having high health with around 30 gold should be the prioritize. When we hit stage 4-1 or 4-2, we want to do a roll down at level 8. And we do this to stabilize a board, selling our item holders and hopefully finding a new item holder for the front and the back line. We simply just can't rush level 9. We might end up in a situation where we die out a few rounds after, and that is why this is not a true fast 9, but it's probably the most true as we have right now, and we simply just have to stabilize at level 8 before we go level 9. When you change your units and putting on items on the new holders, you always have to think if this unit's making the team stronger or worse. Sometimes a 2-cost 2-star unit that are fitting your team and have the same trait as the others is better than a 4-cost 1-star unit. So if you have the chance, get your new item holders to 2-star if needed. But there is just some units that are so strong that you want to transfer the items over as soon as you're hitting them. Let's look at what we can do when we want to move the items over, and this is probably the hardest part of the full comp. You have to keep in mind what we just talked about, that sometimes a 2-star unit is stronger than a 1-star unit, but this is how it could go. When we hit stage 4, we want to go to level 8, and we want to do a roll down before everyone else. If we can tell that we are contested, we want to do it at stage 4-1 or 4-2. If we are not contested and we do have the health for it, we can wait to stage 4-5. Let's say this is our board. This is a fairly easy board to hit when we are level 7. We get to the point where we want to do the roll down. And we do already remember that some of the units are usable in the very late game. Akali and Cillian is already 2 units that we are keeping all the time. So the first thing is, are we hitting a Kalista? We will transfer the items over straight away, since it does not change anything when it comes to our traits. That means we are still 5 in multi-strikers. If we're hitting Camille, she have exactly the same traits as Jax, so even a 1-star Camille will always also be an option. Are we hitting a 1-star Rakan? That is also something we always want to play, since it gives us the trait to give Kalista her 3rd item. Now we're in a situation where we have 4 in multicasters, and that means we can easily drop Kassadin, so we stop with this board. Maybe we even have a Fiora on a bench, but we will stabilize with this board. Now we can roll down a little bit every round, since we do want to have our units to 2-star. If we are in a situation where we have a good amount of health, good amount of economy, we don't want to roll all the way down to 0 gold, and keep our gold above 30 if possible. Are we in a situation where we are highly contested, we kinda have to do more aggressively rolling to hit the units before the other players. As you also can see, we are just keeping Cillian every time, and the same thing goes with Akali, and now these 3 units is the only one we have left. Since the only thing Sylvana is bringing is Shapeshifter, we can always just change these units. And at this point, where we probably have most of the units to 2-star, we can start thinking about putting Fiora in, transfer the items over, and now we're in a situation where there's only 1 unit left. If we're getting Kalista to 2-star and one of these 3 units to 2-star as well, I would consider trying to get to level 9 as fast as possible. That means we do not have to change the units out yet, and we could easily play with this board. At some point, you might be lucky to hit the unit, and you can just transfer the unit over and moving the tank items over from Nico to one of the 2 other tank units. Then you get to level 9, and then you just want to put in the strongest unit that fits the board the best, and in this situation, it will be Morgana. And are you getting to the very late game where everything is getting 2-starred, you could start transfer the items over to Camille, since Camille does have a higher cap than Fiora. But meanwhile you're putting your items over to Camille, you could actually also sell Fiora and sell Akali, putting in Hecarim to make sure that you have 3 in multicasters, and then play Diana for 2 Bastions. And are you getting to level 10, you can even play one of these 2 units to get a bonus for the whole team. Mostly this is not something that happens, but you should keep it in mind that it is an option in the very late game. But remember, if you can make your board stronger and still have above 30 gold, you do have a good chance to win a few rounds and still have a great economy. Have an easier time to do a roll down, and when you stabilize, aim to get to level 9. And just before we get into positioning and a quick tips on gameplay, if you can use these kind of guides, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more guides on set 12. How we place our units can have a big impact. So by default, we want to put our carries in the same side. We do also want to have Cillian, since he can CC the same units as Kalista, and that might stop them from casting and makes it easier for us to do a kill. We do also put Akali in the side, since she are likely to reset, and the same goes for Fiora. We do put the main tanks in the middle, mainly because we just want them to be alive as long as possible, and Rakan is also shielding other units around him, so if he is sitting more in the middle and not in the side, he does provide more. Morgana is sitting slightly behind because she's not that tanky, but she do a bit of damage, and she does also provide a shield. Briar is more or less just doing an AoE CC, and that is it. So try to have your main tanks in the middle and position Kalista and Fiora so they are making sure killing a unit fast and easy. Are you playing against one of the newer comps like Veigar Reroll? This guy is one-shotting other units, so make sure that he is placed on the other side of your carries. Remember before you start forcing this comp should only be played if you have a very strong economy start and are getting to level 9 naturally. Let's say that you're playing a comp and have a good start. You're looking to play something where you have to do a lot of rerolling, but you see yourself quietly contested. Then you can, instead of rolling for ages, consider using the goal for experience and get to this comp. Pivoting your comp in the very latest stages is really hard, and you have now been warned before it comes to forcing it. Alright, let's quickly look at our gameplay. Early game I hit Spoil of War. It's not the best, but it could be something that makes a snowball in the early game. This means that we can play aggressively on levels, and you also gain a bit of gold in the same time. I do not really have the perfect units, I just play the strongest board I can, and in this situation it means to have 2-star units online. I do prioritize to make Kalista items first, and we will put them on Ashe in the very early game. You can even see I use sometimes just components on some units, since it does provide us with a little bit of extra stats. And that could be putting a rod on Ashe before we having the Rageblade, and it could also be putting the glove before we having the last Whisper. My main focus is just to hit 10, 20 and 30 gold as fast as possible, playing the strongest units as I can, and make items for Kalista and the other strong units for the full comp. And as you can see here at stage 2-6, I do have to sell one of the units that I could use to make 30 gold. At stage 3-1, I do have a win streak, and that means I have the option to choose between hitting 50 gold or trying to keep the win streak. In the situation where I'm playing Spoil of War, it's probably a good idea to try to keep the win streak, since I am getting gold from killing units. At stage 3, I just try to put in items that I need for later and try to play the strongest board and keep my gold as high as possible and using gold above 50 to level up. When I hit stage 4-2, I do a bit of a rolling, but since I'm not really contested that much, I can wait a bit more and save some gold. I am also quite high on health, and that means I'm not in a rush by any means, and I am fine sacking a few rounds to have a better economy. I do also find myself not finding any Fioras, and that means I'm prioritizing Briar to have the items instead. Jace is a one cost and does not really provide anything for the full board, so this is what I do to optimize my board. I might be in a situation where I'm finding a 2-star Fiora first and then I have to put the items over. This was not the situation this time, but this is what I have to do if I want to stabilize even more before I'm getting level 9. I do end up in a situation where I'm playing a bit of everything, and that means I'm having Kalista, Camille and Briar as the carries. I do not even play Fiora. I do get to level 9, and this is just what it looks like sometimes. If you could use this guide, please make sure to like the video, and if you want to learn more on how to climb on other comps at set 12, consider subscribing. You can always change your mind. This was all for now. Good luck on climbing, and thanks for watching.